Hi, I'm Josh McGrath,
I'm Andrew Haas.
and this is the Ardent Pursuit Podcast. Welcome back. Today, we're actually going to do something a little bit different. We've titled today's episode Cultural Commentary. Now, why are we going to talk about cultural things on a podcast that's geared towards equipping men to pursue romantic relationships? Well, it's important to note that, we are bombarded constantly with, viral videos, trends, debates, and a plethora of other things. And all of that influences how we view the world around us, in particular when it comes to romantic relationships. And so we want to make sure that we're equipping our listeners to be able to critically examine those viral moments, trends, debates, whatever they may be, in a manner that actually leads to them being able to walk out their belief system, their value system in a healthy, holistic way. So let's dive in here, Andrew. So before we, examine the couple of videos that we're going to watch, as well as a trend that we're going to examine, I think it's important to talk about the lens through which we should be viewing all of this information through. And there are really three questions that as a consumer of culture, we should be asking ourselves, because we don't want to passively consume. We actually want to contribute to help create culture. And the only way we can do that is to move from the passive consumer viewpoint into a more critical, creative standpoint.
Yeah, men have a unique capacity to create, and in this context, create culture. And so that's something that we're going to lean into and kind of unpack.
Yeah. So three questions that we should always be asking ourselves anytime we are consuming any type of information. Number one is, what is the truth? Number two, why does it matter? And number three, how should I respond? So let's briefly unpack this idea of what is the truth. Oftentimes when something goes viral, when something is popular, it's because it strikes a chord in the heart of people. It's something that they can relate to. And so the videos that we're going to watch are actually two young women who are sharing their experience with dating. And the reason why those have become popular is because they resonate with many other women. And it's important to note that when something resonates with people, there's an underlying truth that probably exists on some level, and you want to really mine, so to speak, what that truth is.
You don't want to just dismiss it. You can watch something and hear someone express some point of view and think, oh, it might just be them. The very nature of something going viral or becoming popular points to, like you said, it resonates with people. And so what you want to do is figure out, okay, why does this make sense to people? What's there? It might not apply to all people.
Sure, of course.
But we're not speaking to all cases. We're speaking to a majority. There's something here that people are connecting with. And why is that?
Yes. Now, number two, why does it matter? So in this case, the it refers to whatever the thing is, whether it's a video or a trend or a debate or a conversation. Why does that thing matter in your life?
Well, oftentimes when something like this comes to the surface, it can point to either something that we experience and might not have the words to articulate. It could be it contradicts a norm in culture. It could speak to something significant that's actually below the surface. And sometimes those are the things that are difficult to identify. There could be something happening, as they say, below the surface. It's there. It's just really hard to identify what it is.
Yes.
And so every once in a while, something will come up and it'll be visible, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Yep. And finally, number three here, how should I respond? This is so important. I've said this for years. Are you reacting to something or are you responding to something? Responding to something actually requires one to be critical and to think about the information that they just took in, whether it's a video they watched, a book they read, an article they read, a debate they watched, a conversation they were involved in, a particular situation that they were in. They've got to think critically about it and then think through, all right, how am I responding to whatever it is I just read, saw, was part of? And we want, particularly for men, to be critical thinkers, particularly when it comes to culture.
Yeah, guys should get in the practice of less reacting and more responding, as you said. A guy who can respond well to a situation, it's generally more measured, it's thought out, you have original thoughts and ideas that can contribute and actually improve the situation. And so as guys, that's really the goal here.
And oftentimes when we react to something, we just dismiss it, right? Or we engage with it in perhaps a heightened emotional negative way. And so what we want our listeners to recognize is that there is a proper way to respond to anything. And for instance, the videos we're going to watch here shortly, it's easy to watch those and then to react in a way that's dismissive of their experience, saying, "Oh, well, that's not everyone's experience. That's your experience, whatever." Or to assume the solution is really simple: do X, Y, Z, or don't do X, Y, Z. When in reality, when we actually take that time to critically examine whatever it is that we're observing, watching, experiencing, and we think about how to respond, that's when we actually tend to discover, more holistic solutions that oftentimes aren't quick fixes, but do have a trajectory of time associated with them.
And as men specifically, if we do come across something that really resonates with us, we should figure out, does this resonate with me in a self-serving, this meets some sort of need or desire in a good way, or in an unhealthy way?
Yeah. So before we jump into these videos, it's important to note that the reason why we're actually watching these two specific videos is because in the last couple weeks, they've become fairly popular on social media. People have watched them, they've responded to them, and it's our social media is literally designed at this point to kind of react to videos, right? It's like what's called Stitch on Instagram or TikTok or something.
It's like a feature now.
Yeah, it's a feature now where people just react to things. And so we're responding to these videos today because they resonate with a lot of people. And so the first video that we're going to watch is from a young woman named Ryan. Her handle is Ryan Spencer 51. She posted this video on TikTok a couple weeks ago. It has almost 1 million views. She's 29 years old, and she is sharing her experience with the dating landscape and how she feels about it. So we're going to watch it in its entirety. It's about 3 minutes. So let's hit play here.
Quick question. Are you kidding me? Like, I am so sick and tired of just everything right now. Everyone is so quick to say, stop doing this, stop thinking like this, stop telling me I'm wrong. I have literally convinced myself at this point, based on everything that everyone's telling me, my therapist, my family, my friends, that I'm just doing everything wrong. I'm healing wrong. I'm thinking wrong. I'm training wrong. I'm doing relationships wrong. Everything I do is wrong, and I'm so sick of it. Stop comparing. It's not even about comparison. Like, I genuinely just want love in my life so badly. It's literally not about anyone else. It's just about me and what I want. And being over the fact that I don't have it. I feel like I have done so much work on myself. I have built a beautiful life for myself. I'm happy with my life where I'm at, my job. I'm successful. I'm independent. I'm healthier than I've ever been. I take such good care of myself. Truly, the only thing I'm missing in my life is someone to enjoy it with. And I'm so sick of waiting. Like, when is it going to be my turn? What more do I have to do to fix myself before I'm just allowed to be happy, before I'm allowed to meet this universe soulmate person that God supposedly has for me? How much harder do I have to pray and manifest and wait? I feel like I'm being punished for something I didn't do. And I'm just so tired. I'm so tired. I don't expect a lot. I just want love in my life so bad. I want my life partner. Am I just supposed to be alone? Like, is that the message? That this beautiful life I've built for myself, like, it's just supposed to be me in it alone? Like, I know I have my dog and I love him so much, but like, I need love. All of my friends have their fiancés and their boyfriends and their husbands that they prioritize. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I've been left behind. And I really just want to find that person that matches my energy and wants to build a life with me. Is that so hard?
It's really sad.
Yeah, really sad.
Her experience is not unique to just her. I think going back to the lens through which we need to critically examine, viral videos, it's important to note that there is an element of truth to her story, which is she's not alone in this experience. When you go through and read the comments on her video, you'll find so many women stating, yes, that has been my experience. You're preaching to me. I feel this so deeply. And it's really sad that we are at a particular time in our culture where there are so many great women. We know many great women who want to be married, but are unable to find a man. And Ryan, her example, she kind of lists all these things that she has done. And she mentions that she's created this beautiful life. But the beauty of it doesn't satisfy unless it can be shared with someone on a deep personal relational level.
Yeah. And she has put in a lot of effort, a lot of work, and that's great. The sad reality is that there's likely a lack of healthy men in her life who can provide shade or, comfort on some level. Not just in that one specific instance, but, women really thrive and flourish when the burden that they bear is able to be shared with somebody.
I want to just pull out a couple quotes from her. She starts her video with saying, I genuinely just want love in my life so badly. Now, I think that's interesting because she doesn't really define it there, just I want love. And that's a very, culturally acceptable term. Now, she does go later on and say about, wanting a life partner, which sounds like maybe marriage. She doesn't use the term marriage, though. No. She doesn't use the term husband, though.
No.
Which, to me, doesn't demonstrate a woman who's actually looking for a covenant or a lifetime commitment.
She could either be uninterested, possibly, or she could be scared or hesitant to even assume that could be a reality for her life.
Yes. Again, we only have this short video, so we don't know a lot about her. But from this video, it doesn't appear she's looking for a man that she can marry. She's using this very modern term, partner, life partner, which on its face doesn't sound like a huge level of commitment and definitely no covenant. So she starts with that concept. But then she goes on and says, quote, I feel like I've done so much work on myself. I've built a beautiful life for myself. I'm happy with my life. I mean, apparently not. Where I'm at with my job, I'm successful, I'm independent, I'm healthier than I've ever been. I take such good care of myself. Truly, the only thing I'm missing in my life is someone to enjoy it with, and I'm so sick of waiting. When is it going to be my turn? End quote. I love that she has, she's 29 years old. That's what we read from her bio. And it's great that she has spent, many years developing herself, pursuing a career, working, she works out, she seems, fairly emotionally mature, and successful and all these things. And it's great that she's done that. Absolutely, everyone should be doing that and pursuing that. But again, just from the video, it sounds like everything she's done is for herself. And that comes across as being really self-centered and self-focused. And from a male's perspective, that oftentimes is very unattractive because men aren't attracted to selfish women, just as rightfully so, women are not attracted to selfish men.
The unfortunate reality is that if you spend years or decades improving yourself, working on yourself, pursuing a career, a job, and then you try to pivot and think, I want to find a partner, that can often be a really hard transition.
A very hard transition. She has, it all, so to speak. She's good looking. She is in shape. She's got a good job. She's got a nice car. She likely makes great money and is debt free. She has a place of her own. She has a friends group, yet she is unhappy. Why? Because there's still one aspect of her life that is unfulfilled, and that is a relationship with a man. And what I think is interesting about this is that she's got, all these trophies, so to speak, the job, the career, the money, the looking good, the being in shape. She talks about going to therapy, like all of these things, working on myself. And there's still one trophy that's left unattained. And that's the trophy of the man, of the, as she uses it, life partner. And I think that's interesting because that is the wrong perspective to view a relationship as. You don't want to view a relationship as just another accomplishment. We talked about this early on. You need to have a vision for a relationship that goes beyond the relationship. Because if that's your full vision, that relationship is doomed to fail.
And an unfortunate reality that she's bought into is that, men have spent decades or longer convincing women there are certain things you should prioritize. These several things are of highest priority and you should pursue them, possibly at the expense of other things that are also of high value. And in this example, you could pursue a career and a degree, which again, not bad things. They can be really good things. But if you focus on certain things at the expense of something else, the long-term effect of that starts to become visible.
Yeah, and I agree mostly. I think where I differ is the fact that I wouldn't say that it was men that encouraged women to do that, but it was actually the feminist agenda that actually encouraged women to do that.
True. I would say that men created an environment under which feminism had the ability to flourish.
Sure.
I would say men have lived out their ideals towards selfish means for a long time. Women saw that as problematic, which it is.
Yes.
And they thought, we need to do better. We need to do something different. And they pursued something, and also to detrimental ends. And we kind of have a problem no matter where you look.
Yeah, I mean, men abdicated their role and responsibility to do what was right and what was good and what was healthy, allowing then for women to create a solution, which was feminism.
Yeah.
And men, being selfish and sinful, abdicated their role and responsibility to counter that with what was good, what was right, and what was healthy. And as a result, we've had 60 plus years of feminism that unfortunately has led to a consequence of a culture of women who are alone, who can't find love, who are unhappy, who are frustrated, who may even be depressed and bitter.
And the ironic thing is that the idealized version of feminism looks surprisingly similar to what men have been doing for decades or centuries. And it's like women at their best, so to speak, is what men are doing and have been doing. And it's like, hold on, is that actually the benchmark we should be going for?
And the irony is that, feminism tells women that if you do these things, you'll find happiness, you'll find fulfillment, you'll find satisfaction. And while that may be true to some extent when it comes to maybe finances or career, that doesn't translate necessarily to relationship. And again, we are victims of our theology. We believe that we are created in the image of God. We believe that we were created for relationship with God and with each other. And the fundamental belief system of feminism is the fact that you don't need relationship with a creator, and you don't need relationship with each other, with men or with children. You should rid yourselves of the weight of being wife and mother. And the reality is, by believing that and building off that for 60 years, we now have a generation of women who are successful financially or in their careers, but very sadly are putting out videos that are demonstrative of their loneliness, of a desire that's being unmet, because feminism doesn't create a culture of happier women and more good men.
Well, another sad reality. Well, a truth is that most women, by and large, find fulfillment oriented towards somebody, in a relational capacity. It could be a significant other, children, community, but for the most part, women are designed and find fulfillment toward that end. Men, not so much. We have different capacities, different abilities, different strengths. And so women, for a long time now, have been orienting themselves toward the things that men generally find fulfillment in. And it's left a lot of women unsatisfied.
Yeah, because, shocker, men and women are different. They find fulfillment in different ways. And the lie of feminism is telling women that they need to and will find fulfillment in the same exact ways that men do. And unfortunately, when they realize that's not true, they're kind of left reeling, being like, I don't understand. I have it all. I mean, that's literally what Ryan says. I have a beautiful life. She goes on and says this, quote, I feel like I'm being punished for something I didn't do, and I'm just so tired. I don't expect a lot. I just want love in my life so badly, end quote. She is being punished for something she didn't do. She bought into or is part of a cultural feminist agenda that inherently leaves the vast majority of women unhappy.
Yeah, it tells women to pursue things that might not ultimately leave them fulfilled. And in addition to that, it tells men they are probably harmful, probably bad, probably detrimental. And so men are going to respond in some capacity toward that, and more often than not, withdraw themselves.
There's another quote here that I think is actually really important that I want to touch on briefly. She concludes her video with saying, quote, I really just want to find that person that matches my energy and wants to build a life with me. Is that so hard? End quote. First of all, I think it's interesting that she says, matches my energy. I'm like, that doesn't matter in the least. Matches your values, your worldview.
Your energy is going to change.
Yes, that matters. Your energy doesn't mean anything. But it's interesting. She says, and wants to build a life with me. And I think that's fascinating because, go back to the beginning where she says, quote, I have built a beautiful life for myself. I'm happy with my life, where I'm at with my job. I'm successful. I'm independent. I'm healthier than I've ever been. I take such good care of myself, end quote. This might be hard for a lot of women to hear, and this will definitely go against the feminist agenda, which apparently I'm just on the anti-feminist agenda train today. Come on, somebody needs to be. Which is this. Most men aren't interested in or attracted to a woman whose life is fully complete and is fully beautiful and doesn't need anything. Like, how does he fit into her independent girl boss, I don't need no man life?
Yeah, guys will often, guys want both things. They want a feminine woman and they want someone fully engaged in their world.
Yes.
And the unfortunate reality is that those things often don't go hand in hand.
Yeah, look, again, my heart breaks for Ryan. She seems like a great woman. And she really is truly looking for what sounds like a great guy. But the cognitive dissonance of saying, I have everything in my life put together. I don't need anything else other than the man. And why doesn't he just want to pursue me and build a life with me? And I'm like, what life is he building? You've already built your life. And that's one of the lies of feminism, is it tells women, hey, you don't need a man, you don't need a family, but if you are going to do that for whatever reason, because you're a weak woman, at least wait until you've got all of the things in play first. You've got the career, you've got the position in your workplace, you've got the money, you've got the 401k, you've got the house, you've got the car, you've got the success. Then, if you're still so weak that you need a man, then allow yourself at that point to go and be in a relationship.
And we won't know for sure, but I would be willing to wager a good bit that she would be willing to give up any number of those things that she's built and has fruit in her life. I would suspect she'd be willing to give up any number of those things ultimately to be in a relationship with somebody.
Yeah, I think you're right. So let's turn to video number 2 here. Video number 2 is from a woman named Anya Haas. No relation to you, believe it or not. And Anya, we're not going to watch her whole video because it's 6 minutes, but we're going to watch the first minute of it.
Okay.
And then we'll recap kind of what she talks about here. But her video, again, has very similar, undertones to it. So let's start here at the beginning.
I'm not someone that posts or cries or anything on the internet, so this is a new one for me. I guess I need girls to rally with me and lift me up because I feel so defeated right now. I've been trying to meet someone, just anybody worth my time for years. And dating apps are so awful. I don't need to explain to you how awful the dating apps are. So I've been trying to meet people in public, and they're still trash when I do randomly meet people in public. But tonight takes the cake.
So I'm just going to pause there because she's actually going to describe her evening, which briefly for our listeners, again, if you want to go and listen to it, look it up. But she talks about how she decided to go out to a comedy club alone in hopes of meeting somebody. She arrived early. The host asked her to sit in the front row because it was a sold out show. People started arriving. Turns out it wasn't a sold out show, and no one else joined her in the front row. And so the different comedians who spoke that night, the MC, they all kind of, drew attention to the fact that she was sitting in the front row, that she was there alone. And that made her feel very vulnerable, very exposed.
Sure.
Kind of touched a wound that she was already experiencing.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the night, the MC came up, and normally they raffle off a gift basket full of local goods. And they actually just gave it to her because she was so brave to come by herself and sit in the front row by herself. So I want to pick up at the end of her story here. She says this, quote, "On the way home, I got into an Uber. The Uber driver was a 75-year-old woman with her dogs, and she wouldn't stop talking about her dogs and how she got an oil change. She asked about my night, and I said I had gone to a comedy show. She was nice, but all I could think about was, this is going to be me. I know that's a worst case scenario, and it's not even terrible to be single all your life, but I can't help but feel like I'm going to turn into this because I'm never going to meet someone. For everyone who says, they'll come along when you least expect it, I've been hearing that for 7 years, and I'm so sick of it. There are people who just don't find their person and don't get married. The realist in me is starting to think that's going to happen to me. I'm depressed about it, as pathetic as that sounds." End quote. It's, again, another very sad video.
Yeah.
And it's easy to dismiss these types of videos as one-offs, as thinking, well, that's not, the majority of people's experiences, therefore I don't need to worry about it. No, I actually think that there are many women, I don't know if it's the majority yet, time will tell, who are experiencing this reality, even for women who haven't bought into the feminist lie, who haven't bought into the cultural notion that they need to have it all and they don't need a man. It's been the experience of so many women.
Yeah, and that's a really sad reality for her, is that she's struggling to find somebody. And she acknowledges, hey, maybe I will grow old alone. And unfortunately, is becoming a likely outcome for more and more people.
She says here at the beginning, quote, "I feel so defeated right now. I've been trying to meet someone, just anybody worth my time, for years, and dating apps are awful," end quote. It's sad because here is a woman, Anya, we don't know much about her. She seems nice from her video, who on her own accord has been trying to initiate on some level to meet somebody. Just anybody, she says. And that really highlights this reality that so many men aren't initiating, which is the very reason why we started this podcast, was to equip men to be initiators of romantic relationships that lead towards flourishing marriages. And what I think is interesting about her perspective here is that, again, I'm going to rail on the feminist agenda. It's told women, you go, girl. The future is female, girl boss. You don't need a man. And if you are going to be interested in a relationship, you should run that relationship. You should pursue him. You should be in charge. And in fact, we actually have the dating app Bumble was actually created specifically for this purpose.
Yeah.
The founder, Whitney Wolfe Herd, said that she started the company to, quote, "put women in control of their dating lives," end quote.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, right? She had looked around at the dating landscape, both online and in life, and realized many women were being pursued by undesirable men. And so instead of letting men pursue women, she was like, I'm going to put women in the driver's seat so they can pursue men. All right. Well, a May 3rd article from Forbes titled, "Men Can Now Initiate Conversations on Bumble. Here's Why It Matters." This is fascinating.
Okay.
Quote, "Men can now initiate conversations on Bumble. The dating app, once unique for requiring women to initiate conversations with potential matches, adjusted its policies this week. Female users thought making the first move was too much of a burden, so their potential dates can now make the first contact. The change highlights the difficulty in moving away from traditional dating norms," end quote. The article goes on to quote the founder of Bumble, Whitney Wolfe Herd, who told the New York Times that, quote, "Bumble received feedback from women who found that making the first move was, quote unquote, a lot of work or, quote unquote, a burden. So the app now allows men to make the first move," end quote. It's interesting that an entire dating app changed its total business model
Yeah.
because putting women in the driver's seat of pursuing romantic relationships wasn't working for women.
This highlights several issues with dating apps in general, which might be a
We'll do
focus
another
session at
episode
some
on,
point.
yeah.
But I think what's interesting here is that the problem was thought to be men initiating, which that actually ended up not being the problem. The problem ended up being the manner in which men initiate.
Yes.
And that's where men fail. It's like we, generally speaking, are terrible
Yes.
at initiating with women. And my opinion is that dating apps have just made it that much easier for men to be terrible at it.
Because again, feminism has not created a culture of more good men. All it's done is push the good men to the outskirts of society, and bad men who have always existed and will always exist, who are opportunistic, take advantage of that situation. There is no bulwark of good men standing in the gap between bad men and women.
And that is one of the big failures that we will keep coming back to and that we're trying to address and improve, is that there are certain key areas that men are failing in. And it's a problem. And we are all experiencing the effects of that.
Yeah. We're trying to draw good men back into the cultural conversation. And the Bumble example actually flies in the face of the feminist agenda. And it actually shows that the God-given design of the man and the woman being different, and the man pursuing her, loving her, being over her, protecting her, providing for her, serving her, loving her, that whether you're Christian or not, the women in our culture are actually reflecting the reality of that and saying, on some level, I want that.
Yeah. What's often beneficial for women is not increased responsibility, increased burden, which they by all means can bear those things.
Absolutely.
But often what's most helpful to them and to culture as a whole is men stepping up, stepping in, initiating in a healthy way, initiating in a way that's not selfish, that's actually purposing to be for the benefit of the person that they're pursuing.
Yes. And we said this early on that, people tend to talk about viral moments or popular things and just kind of give their hot take on them. And that our goal is to, as much as we're able to provide solutions to those things. And when I think about Anya's story, Ryan's story, it's like, what is the solution? There actually is no great solution because they're actually living out the consequence of 60 years of a feminist agenda. And we as a culture have bought into that by and large, even within the church. And it's going to take time to recalibrate and reorient ourselves to a proper, holistic, biblical understanding of the role of men and women, the purpose of romantic relationships, the value and importance of marriage and covenant. And that's not going to happen overnight.
It certainly won't. And that's really unfortunate, but that's the reality, is that we've lived with decades of poor decisions and bad ideas. And here we are at this moment in time when we're seeing this unhelpful fruit, this undesirable fruit in people's lives. And yeah, the sad thing is that there is no quick fix. It's going to take time to bring about change. But as men, that's what we're called to do.
Mm-hmm. And for men, like, look, Ryan, Anya, they might be great women to pursue. But for men, they need to remember that the most important thing is not a woman who's got the great job, the great career, the finances, the car, the dog, whatever, but that the values of the woman and the way that she leverages her life in service and care to others around her, that's what matters most when it comes to who am I going to pursue. And for women, my advice to Anya and to Ryan is, again, I don't know what their lives look like. We only have these short videos to look at. But my advice to them is, ladies, serve the people around you. You leverage your opportunities, your talents, your finances, your ability to serve people around you. And as you do that, it's not a guarantee that a man's going to notice you and want to pursue you, but that will inevitably definitely make you more attractive.
And something we should just clarify is that it's not the career or the high-paying job that often men find attractive in a woman over the long haul. Those things are great, and they could be interesting, more probably on a colleague level or on a friend circle area. But for someone that you're going to be in deep relationship with for life, those things long-term hold less and less value.
That's true. Now, I want to kind of pivot to the bit of a viral trend that's happening right now. It's very different from these two videos that we just watched.
Okay.
It's the man versus bear trend.
Will this need explaining?
It will need some explaining. So for those who are not familiar with it, there are videos of women, thousands and thousands and thousands of videos of women talking about, would they rather be alone in the woods with an unknown man or be alone in the woods with a bear? And the vast majority, if not all, these videos are women saying, well, I'd rather be alone with the bear in the woods. And that, while maybe tongue-in-cheek to some extent, there are many people out there, many women out there defending why this is. And their explanation is, look, an unknown man, he could be a predator, he could attack you, he could harm you physically or sexually, and men are not to be trusted. And so the bear is a more reliable and safer thing because most bears aren't going to attack you. And if they do, you know the way in which they're going to attack you. And so, again, you could kind of view these videos as like, oh, whatever, they're kind of weird, kind of crazy, whatever, and just move on. But the fact that it's gone viral and there are so many of them and so many women are vehemently defending the position of the bear.
It's really true.
There's an underlying current here. And what we want to do is we want to unpack that underlying current, because juxtaposed against the two women, Anya and Ryan, who made videos really lamenting their hearts, saying, man, I just want a man in my life, compared to the women making videos saying, oh, if my option is man or bear, I'm taking the bear. It's like, wow. I mean, talk about the cognitive dissonance between these two things.
Yeah. I mean, they possibly are both speaking to a coin that's got two very different sides.
Sure.
On the one side, you have the observation that there are no good men, and most or all men are harmful. And then you have women who are frustrated that there are no men for them to be with.
Which, I'm going to argue this, going back to feminism, that is a major fault of feminism. Because feminism doesn't create more good men. What it does is it pushes the good men away, leaving women and bad men. So guess what women are experiencing? Bad men. So I would choose the bear. What are women experiencing? Bad men. I'm alone. Where are the good guys? The result of the feminist ideology and belief system is destructive to women, regardless of where you land, whether you want to be in a relationship or you don't.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that at least in its current form, an idealized version of feminism looks very similar to what you would call masculine pursuits.
Explain that.
Think of things that men historically have pursued and found value in, or spent their life dedicated to. Feminism says you should do all those things as well, and you should find value, and you will find value in all those things. And now maybe you do. I just think it's interesting that culture and feminism is saying for feminism to reach its peak is going to look very similar to what men have been doing for centuries or longer.
That is ironic. And the reality that we now exist in is a world where good men don't know how to initiate, bad men are initiating in their classic terrible ways, and then women are caught in the middle where oftentimes the responses are either all men are bad because of their experiences, and those are very real, very valid experiences, which then pushes good men even further away. Or you have women making videos saying, there are no good men. Where are the good men? I want to be with the good men. And the good guys being like, well, clearly, like, if you don't think there are any more good men, I want nothing to do with you either. And so what we're doing is there's just an isolation of women, of good men, and then bad men are just opportunistic and taking advantage of the terrible situation we find ourselves in within culture. The thing is, what we've got to do is we've got to engage the good men to be involved. And yes, I know there's been 60 years of a culture of a feminist agenda telling men, you don't need to be involved, you don't have a role to play, stay silent. But when good men stay silent, bad things happen to women, bad things happen in culture. And so we're trying to equip men to, on a very basic level, learn how to initiate romantic relationships, to insert themselves into this process. And by doing so, help be creators of culture rather than just consumers of culture.
Yeah, too many men stand on the sideline and just let culture and life happen to them, so to speak. You know, they might go about their life and go about their job, but really they're complacent and willing to just kind of sit on the sidelines and not contribute toward culture, as you said, in a positive way.
I love the way you put that. And I think that's a great time to talk about our homework. Our homework this week is very simple. It's to be a critical thinker of culture and not just a consumer. I mean, look at the fact that we just took 2 videos and a quick trend, and we had, I don't know, a 35, 40-minute discussion on that. How easy it could have been to have watched those videos, to observe this trend and just to have scrolled by it, to just consume it and to not think critically about it. We've given you a framework with which to engage the content that you are bombarded with 24/7. Granted, you're not going to do this with every video you watch, with every post you see, but take this rubric and use it when you can in your sphere of influence, because we want for you men to be creators of culture and not consumers of culture. Thanks for joining us here today. We look forward to having you here next time on the Ardent Pursuit Podcast.